Hey guys, Andy at Backbone Adventures, ATV and Jeep rental company in Estes Park, Colorado. So today I'm going to do just a little bit of a video on clutches for the Polaris RZR 1000 XPs. So I'm going to turn this camera around and show you a couple of things. Alright, so like I said, we're an ATV and Jeep rental company, and we have a fleet of Polarises as well as Kawasaki KRXs. There's some different, here we have our secondary clutches, primary clutches. Now here I have a brand new one and a used one, brand new one and a used one. So these two used ones came out of a machine that these were, didn't have very many miles on these clutches. So, but this one had already been rebuilt once, and we'll only rebuild a clutch one time, and I'm going to explain why. Something you need to look for if you're looking to buy one of these machines, a used one, something you need to look for in your clutches. So in your primary clutch, something to look for here, if you can kind of see some of the grooving that's happening here, that's why we're not going to rebuild this clutch again. That grooving is showing up, and it's also on the other side. You can see there's a line here. See that groove? those grooves will eat belts left and right. So that's generally just what happens when you don't service your clutch enough, or no, it's just a Polaris piece of shit clutch, really, to tell you the truth. As far as belts are concerned, we don't use aftermarket belts. We only use OEM belts. I've tried every aftermarket belt out there, and there's some that claim, you know, all kinds of amazing things, but really I've yet to see it transpire in reality. So that's why we only use the OEM belts. Obviously much more expensive, but so yeah, that's something to look for, is look for that grooving in your primary clutch. When you go to rebuild one of these clutches, one of these primary clutches in a Polaris, there's these buttons in here you can barely see, little black buttons. Try and find some here, and I can show you what they push buttons look like. That right there, like $5, $6 a piece. There's 6 of them in here, just right where each weight is. And of course there's 3 weights. And when you rebuild one of these clutches, we replace everything. There's a roller bearing that we have to replace, that we replace the 3 roller bearings in it. We generally replace the pins. Roller bearing is this is a roller bearing here. There's 3 of those in the clutch, and then there's a pin, one of these, that goes inside that hole of that bearing. So we'll replace all that, as well as the buttons, like I said, and the weights, because they start to wear right here. This one isn't too bad off, so that's why I have it listed as parts, because we could potentially use those weights again, because there's hardly any wear there and not much play. Now, there's a little bit of play going on there, but it's not too bad off. And obviously your bearing, this bearing is shot in here, just doesn't spin at all. It's pretty locked up. So that's another thing we'll replace, and that's, you know, $37, $38. So you end up getting a couple $100, $300 in parts trying to rebuild one of these things. Obviously this doesn't have a spring in it. This is a brand new clutch where we have already set it up, so we can just swap it in a machine. Normally when you buy a clutch primary, they don't come with a spring. And they don't come with weights, so we got the weights in it, spring in it, so that we can just slap it in a machine when we're ready to go. Like I say, you're generally only going to get one rebuild out of a clutch, depending, you know, on how you treat the machine. And most people that own an RZR are not babying it around a farm. They're generally hammering on it pretty good, so you're going to see some wear in your clutches. Secondary clutches don't often go too bad. Don't go bad. There's a helix inside of here, and I'll have a oh yeah, here's a helix here. This is your helix. I've seen a couple of these blow apart, but generally that doesn't happen. But when you buy a secondary clutch, it doesn't come with a helix. It does come with this piece here, the rollers on it. It comes with that, but it doesn't come with this actual metal aluminum helix, so you'll have to buy that separately. Polaris charges like $325, $350 for that piece. This is an aftermarket G-Force, I believe, or what's it say, G-Boost, whatever, but just as good as OEM really. But the thing to look out for on the secondary clutches is when it starts to wear right here. And I don't know if you can see that, but there's some wear starting to happen. It's a little curved right here where it slides in the direction that the clutch spins. It's just this one side that starts to wear. This one isn't too bad. That's why I have it here as an emergency type backup, but you can obviously see how many times we've changed a belt on this using our tool to spread this to get a belt off. It's pretty, every 400 miles or so we're putting new belts on. 400 to 500, 500 is pushing it. We usually won't go that far out. That's how much we go through belts. So that's something to look for, is look for that wear there, and kind of tell you whether you're needing a secondary clutch or not. Generally don't get a lot of grooving happening on these secondaries, just mainly the primary. So that's kind of the situation with clutches in the Polaris machines. The turbo clutch is a little bit different, little bit beefier, but not really by much, to tell you the truth. It's the same level of piece of shit that the XP clutches are. I don't have a Kawasaki clutch here to compare it to. I can just tell you that the Kawasaki clutch is twice the size of this, and they're very simple. You don't have to replace any of this in a KRX. All you really have to do are the weights at some point in time when they start to wear. So a much better design in the Kawasaki, but that's how you deal with a Polaris clutches. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them down below, and I hope that information helps if you're out there looking to buy a used machine or inspect a used machine, or even just inspect your own machine. So have a good day. All right, so I have Mike here, and he's going to show you how we're not going to actually rebuild the clutch. We're going to show you the tools you need and how to do it. So go ahead, Mike.
So first, you got your clutch out of your machine. Once that's out of there, you got your mounting bracket. Clamp that in your vise as tight as you can get it. I recommend taking an orange, or not orange, but rubber mallet and pounding this in there. Make sure it doesn't move.
This is an aftermarket tool.
Yes.
You can buy this at Rocky Mountain ATV and other places online.
Once you get that, make sure it's bolted out super tight, because this is torqued to 250 foot-pounds. Put this bolt in here, thread it in, take your 24 millimeter socket, or whatever size kit you get comes with, and then tighten that down really tight to about 250 foot-pounds, just like this is torqued to. Once that's on there, you'll take your 10 millimeter socket and your impact gun and take this cap off. Careful, it's under pressure, there's a spring underneath it. Once that pops out on you, you'll take the cap off of here. Then you'll have a spider that'll be inside of here. This one doesn't have one. You will then take your spider nut remover tool. There's going to be a spider nut on top that'll undo itself, or not undo itself. You'll undo it with this tool. After that comes off.
And that's an aftermarket tool you can buy on plenty of websites for.
Yeah. Once you get that spider nut taken off, then you can actually take the spider off with this tool itself. You'll put it in here just like this. You can see where it would line up to grab around the outside of the spider, where it should be. Once it grabs onto that, crank on this just how you would lefty-loosey. It's 250 foot-pounds. I recommend getting something like this and a really long cheater bar. And then once you do that,
and you strap it to the bumper of the RZR is what you do to hold the.
Yes.
We have a vise set up on a table here. You're going to need, when you do this, it's a whole lot of torque, right? You can explain that a little
250 foot-pounds. So you want to make sure if you're hooking it up to a machine like on a rolly table that moves, there's these little tabs just on the back side of the bumper here. You want to hook onto those or onto the bumper itself, and then strap your table to the bumper of the machine. But once you get all that off, the spider will come off, and that'll basically untwist itself. It will unscrew. It'll pop right off the top here, and then pretty much you're just at this point here. You'll be able to take this off of here, replace your bearings and other things. This was covered in oil. Please don't do that to yours. But you replace your bearings, your washers, your pins, and then you'll put all this back together, and you'll come back down, replace your clutch weights, your clutch pins, and your bolts here. 10 millimeter for that guy right there, and then it's a 1/8 for your Allen key here on the other side. If I can get it in there.
Yeah. Okay.
And then that'll get those off of there, you replace those, and then pretty much it's just the reverse process. Once you get all that back together, put your bearings in, put your washer in, put your collar over it, spider in, torque that down to 250 foot-pounds. Once that's torqued down, then you're going to take this, put your spring back inside the thing with your blue washer, plastic washer that'll go on top, keeps it from smacking this and unspinning itself. Press this back together, make sure you line up your X's. There's going to be X's on all of the parts. This one doesn't have the spider with it, but you can see down in here, it's got an X down in there. There'll be an X on one of the shafts of the spider, and then an X on the cap. You want to make sure that you line all of those up, press the whole thing together, and then torque it to specification. And then that's it. Unbolt this, and then you're going to use your clutch puller tool just like you did to get it off the machine to get it off.
Okay. And obviously your spider, you have your buttons and stuff on the spider that you don't have in here. So these things wear out. I was telling you about before, these things wear out pretty quick. So cool. Anything else about it? Is that good?
No, I think I'll just do a video of actually rebuilding one next time we do one.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mike.